Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the EU review with Tom, Ed, and James. The aim of this podcast is to review the EULCS, or newly named LEC games, from the perspective of fans and long-time players of League. We've all had somewhat of a passion for League and esports for a number of years, and always thought that the podcast is kind of the right forum to discuss things like this. Hopefully, be able to share it with some other people and get your opinions on it as well. So, if Tom and Ed just want to briefly introduce themselves, and I'll go over what we're going to start with. So, Tom.
Hi.
All right. Okay. Ed first then.
Okay.
I'm Ed. Hello.
And Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom.
All right. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. So. First of all, this week, obviously, we've had the many months of off-season. We've had quite a drastic change in the rosters. I genuinely held the belief that this year we were going to be free from a lot of the drama surrounding the off-season, but apparently this year is no exception.
Ooh.
So we're going to be talking a bit about the roster swaps in particular, and more on how we think the players are going to do, how we think the teams are going to do, and we're going to be making some predictions for the ahead season on things like performance or performance versus the narrative, because this is a big thing that we know a lot of fans have a strong feel about the narrative of players. Like, they get a lot of their information from Reddit or Twitter or something, and they don't get to watch all the games. But obviously, we're all going to be watching all the games. We want to give an analysis of whether we feel these narratives are fair, and hopefully track our predictions over a number of weeks. And then also we're going to be looking at things like Match of the Week and how we think Riot have managed to live up to like the Match of the Week expectations, and whether we think there was a better Match of the Week that could have taken place, things like this. So we'll hopefully get a good few amount of sections going. Obviously, none of those will be applicable today because it is currently the 15th of January, meaning no games play until this Friday. So we're all very excited, I imagine, waiting for those games to start, because as we're going to find out, there have been some very, very juicy roster swaps. So, without any further ado, I think we get into the first team, which is Excel Esports. So, in terms of the roster, guys, I'm going to ask you guys about what you think, first of all, just about their top lane, or probably more importantly, what you think of the fact they have a 10-man roster.
10-man can work. Probably won't work, I think. Like, the likelihood is that there'll be at least 2 people, probably 3, could be 5 people that never play a game. You never know. Because, 2 people fighting for one spot, someone's going to be better. So, 10-man roster, I don't think it's going to work, but it might do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Especially with Fnatic this year, for example. They had the probably the strongest top laners in Europe, potentially. And the fighting for the spot has obviously encouraged a bit of competition.
Exactly. It's like they don't have it this year. The only other team that had 2 people fighting for one spot, perhaps you could say that Vitality, when they brought in Kikis, and they had Gilius, but it wasn't really fighting for the spot at that point, was it?
Yeah.
It was just being replaced. So it hasn't worked in the past. It kind of worked over in America with C9, but
yeah, I suppose. But
it's I don't know, because we saw, Soros has gone from Fnatic, so.
Yeah, exactly. And historically, obviously, the other big replacement was EasyHoon for Faker in that historic Worlds run a few years ago. And I feel like that's quite an important one as well, because as soon as they were fighting for the position, they were both probably 2 of the best in their position at that time. And then, obviously, when you're that good and you're not getting the starting spot, you will want to look for opportunities elsewhere to get a starting spot and show your talent.
Almost any sport, but if you're not playing every week and you think on another team you can be playing every week, you're not going to stay on the team, because
Yeah.
Game time is your job. I know you're probably still getting paid for not playing games, but you still have to do all the training, the resource work put into it. So you want to be playing. You want to be seeing what you can do on the stage. So
Yeah.
not playing can be, I don't know, pretty sad.
No, I
Who
agree
knows?
actually, because to an extent, like, it obviously increases your market value. If you're showing that you're a good player and you know that you're not playing all the games, the team's going to want to look out for you. Because I remember actually for example, Sendu was actually a sub for G2 in one of their games a couple of years ago, and he has very very brief LCS experience, but has played I think in the Spanish league since then, and he's actually quite well respected, and he's going to be sharing top lane with Expect, who I also think is a very
I see how you
respected
got
top laner.
into this now. I was like, send to who? What? The character?
Yeah,
Yeah, Expect. We'll no Expect.
love Expect. What do you think about Expect, Tom? Do you know him?
I don't know him, but I think about the 10-man roster, I think it could be like quite a good thing. Because obviously everyone's going to have their specific talents, so they can swap out against another team if the other top lane is weak against a certain type of enemy. So
Yeah.
just swap them out. So I think it could work.
Yeah,
The 10-man
the
team.
Impact Ray thing that was going on a couple of
Definitely.
years back, where Impact was tanks only and the Ray was the carries.
yeah. I think especially in this scenario, I know Expect on GG2 played a lot of tanks, and even in the EU Masters played a lot of tanks. And Sendu, from what I've seen, is a bit of an aggressive player. Maybe that's for one a good thing. Moving to the jungle, Kadril is not my best rated player in my books. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
feel like Casual has now had two opportunities to show himself. Obviously, once in the mid lane and then now in the jungle, and I haven't exactly been impressed with him so far.
No. And this is one I think where a narrative could be very interesting, because there is a narrative that he is just awful. Like,
I mean,
not to be unfair on him, but the general consensus among players that he's a bit of a joke.
I guess it's always a chance to prove yourself. Like
Yeah.
he's high up in solo queue, or at least has been, I believe. So
Yeah, I remember on the XL announcement video, or not necessarily the announcement video, but some stuff they'd put out recently, he's mentioned how much more confident he is on jungle than mid lane. And, I mean, when he was playing mid lane in, like, Challenger Series, he was, like, fairly okay. It's just how he matched up against, like, top LCS players. So, I imagine give him an opportunity on a role he now says he's more comfortable on, maybe he has a chance to grow.
do you know much about this Taxa player? I
I've
don't know.
never
I
heard of him.
don't know either.
No.
I was
But
just looking
I'm
at
not
his.
going to lie, he doesn't sound like the best jungler. Taxing all the lanes. But no,
Who knew?
I've got no
Here comes the Taxman.
input on him. And this will be
No,
one
okay.
where in a few weeks we'll go, how did we miss Taxa, you know? And whatever.
He's played in a bunch of like small leagues. I guess the Denmark league and
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
nothing too major.
that's
I
a
suppose-
good idea.
I think two-man rosters probably can help people who are not quite at that. Sorry, not two-man, 10-man rosters are not quite at that LEC level yet, but want to get the experience with the team and can almost learn under someone else rather than just playing solo queue all the time. So
Yeah.
it could be a good opportunity for someone like Taxa or the other
Yeah,
non-household names
yeah, definitely.
coming in.
Because, I mean, historically there have been a lot of teams that have picked up people from, like, Spanish leagues, like, I don't know, Bwipo, or Turkish leagues, I don't know, Xerxes, I don't know, Caps, you know.
Yeah.
Some people just need the right environment to get going. I mean, there have been plenty of examples where it's not worked, of course, as well, but I actually think the LEC has, or previously the LCS, has actually had quite a good record for turning talent into good things. I suppose the only example I can think of where they haven't is Niski, actually, because he came to LCS on, I can't remember which team now, but very quickly dropped out. I think it might have been the old version of, was it Vitality with no, it wasn't Vitality. Basically, he was playing on a team with Dreams, who we'll come on to later in another team, and they very quickly dropped out of the LCS, and then he went to America and did really well. came back to EU, came even stronger, and he's hopefully set to do even better again this year.
Gone back to the States.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
hasn't he?
So I suppose the only example I can think of where EU's not worked out for people, but does show that there's a
I
quite
mean,
high
it
level.
worked out in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. But he found his stride in America. But I suppose that also speaks to good organisations and franchising. So,
Yeah, true.
and that's something that we're going to see as well this year in the LEC, with so many teams adopting a bit more funding and a bit more structure within their team.
Stability, hopefully.
Yeah. In terms of mid lane, I want to talk about Exile a bit because
So Exile is kind of he's not done anything that has made me think, wow, Exile kind of thing. But I guess it's another chance to prove himself. I mean, UOL didn't exactly do well last year, like at all.
And
I think they only stayed up because they got rid of relegation. Is that
Yeah,
correct? I believe.
probably.
So
to be fair, it depends what kind of teams they would have been playing last year, because I think there's definitely some contenders to knock them out. I would agree in some of the lower leagues, or like Spanish leagues, for example. He's always been this kind of player where you can have you can win a game off of him, because I remember his previously his Vladimir or his Yasuo on a good day was very, very impressive, but on a bad day would generally just be a joke. It'd be dying in lane solo kills. It's just not the kind of stuff you want from a core player in a roster, which again, like we were saying earlier, I guess is why a 10-man roster could be beneficial here.
And how do you feel about Special? I don't know too much about Special.
No, I don't know much about
So
Special.
he's just from Misfits Academy, it looks like.
Yeah.
So I guess this is a chance to see what he can do, to see if he can push Exile out of that spot. Mid lane has also always been a kind of EU midsman, kind of like a vital role in Europe. So that could be a weak point, but let's see what people can do.
Especially with the caliber of mids we currently have, actually. So we've got Febiven returning. We'll come on to later as well.
I've not forgotten.
No. So I think I'd be surprised how often, if they switch up their roster a lot, or whether they're going to switch in just certain players as games go, or whether they have two set rosters and then they'll switch them intermittently. It should be interesting to see how they do it.
I don't think two set rosters is a great idea, because, well, obviously I'm not running a team, but I mean, how can you tell how well someone's doing by comparing 5 against 5 rather than just comparing the 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the sort of thing where the first few weeks might be a bit unstable, might be a few changes, and then by the end they have their team. Or maybe they pretty much know they're starting 5 already, and the other 5 are there to try and make the way into the team rather than at the moment, like, they're like there's 5 and then there's 5 trying to push up and then become 5 other teams. So
I think in general it doesn't look like a bad team though by any stretch of the imagination. It just depends.
You're going to compare it to the other teams, don't you?
Yeah. I think it's also important to remember though that someone has to come bottom. Like, just because they are a bottom team doesn't mean that you are necessarily a bad team. Hopefully this looks like it's going to be a very competitive year, and I hope they don't just completely get shut out because we have a couple of mistakes. But so I'm going to ask you guys for predictions on just general predictions on how you think they're going to do. Are they going to be top or bottom of the leaderboard? Top half or bottom half?
Bottom half for me.
I think probably bottom half of the leaderboard.
So why do you think that?
Well, they're a new team. They might have people that have been in the scene a long time, coaching staff or players, but it's not compared to the 6 teams that are previously already been in the competition, and some strong teams that are coming in. I don't see as one of the standout teams. They haven't got 5 players that make me excited to watch League of Legends. They've got 5 players they've got 10 players, but the 5 I imagine starting, they're 5 players that are like, yeah, they are pros, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they're not like getting too far with this, I don't think, but prove me wrong, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully. Tom?
I disagree with Ed. pretty much exactly the same. Every other team, well, not every other team, a lot of the other teams have quite a long history in the scene. So I think they're going to be way more prepared than this team.
Some fair analysis.
You, James?
Yeah, I think fairly similar. I wouldn't. It's hard to guess teams like this because
Yeah, big unknown. Yeah.
yeah, because you never know how these players are going to work together as well. They might have this great synergy that means that they know exactly how to push the lanes and where their advantages are. But I think just on raw performance of their as who we think are going to be starting, I would put them on the bottom half, especially on people like Cadril and Exile. Like they're very coin flippy, and not to be offensive to Cadril, but his coin flip doesn't often land the right side up.
So how do you? What do you think of Kasing? Because
I really like Kasing, just on a personal level, from a player perspective. He's I'm sorry, as a person, like he seems like a very nice guy, and I think that makes him valuable to a team, just for morality, just for like being able to turn around games that aren't maybe winnable.
he's a proven shot caller. Like he knows what he's doing, and that can always turn a bad team into a team that does well.
Yeah.
So even if he's not the most stylish support, doesn't do the best in-game plays, it's like I think that's a good pickup for the team.
Yeah, I'd still say his performance is very good though as well. I think he's top half of supports for sure in the league. It's just his team. Hopefully.
Yeah, last year definitely.
Yeah, well he's been around for a long time as well. He's been always fairly well rated. He's got some nice pocket picks like Zilean, for example, that other people aren't going to be necessarily expecting. So.
And he's got the Kasing effect. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Take part in XL and not this year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, for me, probably it's hard to say bottom half because I do think this is going to be a competitive year, and I wouldn't put many of the teams as certainly bottom half, but I think this would probably be one of the ones where I would put them there, unfortunately. So, I suppose that wraps up XL, so we can move on to Fnatic, which is interesting. Not too much to talk about here. We've had obviously the departure of Soaz and another named mid laner.
You're not even saying his name anymore.
No, as a Fnatic fan, it pains me to know our beloved mid laner.
You who have been under a rock for the past 2 months.
Yeah, and I am. Yeah, so as a Fnatic fan, it does hurt a little bit, but as I will go on to say later, it's not the worst thing that could have happened, I have to say. So what were your guys' general impressions of the team?
I think they've got to change their playstyle from second half last year, because Nemesis, no matter if he's great, no matter how good he is, he's not going to be Caps day, is he? He's not going to be out there, stand out performance week in, week out. Caps started the same, like he wasn't. They played around Reckless for the first year and a half he was there, pretty much, and it was only MSI last year they really started to play around Caps.
Definitely remember that.
So if they can switch back to playing around Reckless or even around Buipo, they still have a good chance. But obviously Nemesis is a big unknown in the LEC. We don't know how good he's going to be. So I think they do have to change the way they're going to play this year.
Yeah, I mean you say he's a big unknown, but I mean his time in the Spanish league has been very good.
You can be great in the Spanish league and the Turkish league or in whatever league you want.
Well,
you can even be good in Korea and something come over to Europe and be bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean.
It's true. But I think compared to what was available, I think this is a great pickup. Because again, he was one of the stronger members on Mad Lions, and he actually had. Well, he's a sort of player they need in Fnatic. He's sort of a replacement for Caps, if not having more experience than Caps when he comes in. But I don't think he can ever have the balls that Caps had, because that man was so strange watching him play League of Legends, because you'd be spectating someone on top lane and suddenly Caps has killed someone bot lane. But obviously he was known as Coin Flip Caps in solo queue, that came very prominent in Worlds as well, especially in the finals, where there's some of his Irelia games that were very questionable.
You know, obviously Nemesis has massive shoes to fill,
Yeah,
but Bwipo, Broxer, Reckless, and Hitley have all proven themselves on the world stage now,
Yeah.
and Broxer was someone who this time last year I wasn't too all shouty about. Like, I didn't think he was the best jungler necessarily in Europe, or maybe not even close, but I think he has been absolutely phenomenal last year. I
Yeah.
think
I agree.
the way I think he set up Caps for all Caps' success in almost every game. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but
Yeah, I
think
definitely
Broxer
agree there.
was amazing last year. And if he can be anywhere near as good with these new laners, then I think they have a good chance of doing well
Yeah.
this year as well.
See, because I can't imagine Nemesis popping out something like a Vayne mid. That's
No,
something only the
exactly.
Caps will be able to
Yeah.
do.
That's the Cap special.
Yeah, but I imagine that Broxer is that sort of rock that he needs to get in. I mean, I don't know if you watched the Fnatic live stream a couple of days ago, but one of the comments Reckless had made was that he said that Caps was babied in Fnatic a little bit,
Yeah, I
and
saw
that he
that.
wouldn't
Yeah.
see that he wouldn't be the same in G2. And I think that's a really interesting point because there's a certain caliber to Fnatic mid laners, and I want to suggest that maybe that's because they have always had such strong side lanes being bottom top that the mid laner is almost freed up in a sense. But obviously that lends itself to, because the mid laner then becomes good, then the side lanes get freed up. But it all starts from Reckless
Yeah.
just being a bit of a rock, and if you get him to 6 items
Reckless
on a good
is the
carry,
rock, yeah.
then and it's sort of like a
Just
perfect
one rock.
team where if Reckless gets to 6 items, you know he's going to carry the game for you on the right character. If Broxer is sort of this early game like mastermind. I remember his Trundle especially, like maybe not the best flashy champion in the world, but I remember when that was meta, he was consistently setting up good starts for his teams. Obviously Lee Sin is incredible as well, which is a very early game champion. And he gets
That's
the
what
team
was
going.
impressive because they almost changed. Fnatic almost changed their whole playstyle when Lee became meta and early. Because in the split in Europe, they were playing with Gragas, Sejuani, all the kind of tank junglers, the Trundle, and then when Lee's meta, Roxa plays Lee for the first time in the year and just pops off big
Yeah.
time.
I mean, to be
5
fair
games
to
in a row
him,
or whatever.
To be fair to him, though, he was a very big
Yeah.
Lee Sin one trick in solo queue. But obviously there were other champions that were more aggressive, like Kindred, which he did show like a really good performance on as well. So it's not
I
just
think
that.
we haven't talked about the loss of Soaz
No,
enough.
I was hoping to
even
move
though-
on to that next. Yeah.
Yeah, even though they used Bwipo in, was it all 3 games in the final?
Yeah.
And I think all
in the
3
first 2.
games in
Yeah.
the semi as well. Okay, so played about 6 games in semis and finals. And it's obviously disappointing for Soaz because he's pretty much got them there. He had some very good games out Worlds as well.
Mm.
And I'm glad that he's found a new team that he'll be able to start with. But I think that's also a loss for Fnatic.
Definitely. Yeah.
In some ways, it's a gain because Bwipo's
Gets
been
more
shown
stage
that he
time.
can carry, be more aggressive, can almost win lane, relieve pressure elsewhere. But I mean, so is Soaz. It's
Yeah.
like enough said, really.
Yeah, exactly. Just that experience. But it's interesting because obviously experience can develop. So whilst he was this massive veteran on the team, it now becomes less important because everybody else has somewhat matured on the team and had shared that experience. He's now gone almost as far as he's ever gone again this year, and now his team shared that experience. So they are almost as experienced as he was when he
It's not,
joined
it's
them.
not just the experience. He was also an extremely good top laner.
Yeah, definitely. But obviously
like,
Bwipo is as well. So
Yeah,
it's kind of
but I
hard
think
to.
Bwipo's more coin flip definitely than Soaz.
Yeah, I think so.
Soaz you could rely to, if you needed him to, just sit top, I don't know, be 5-10 CS behind or whatever, but have not lost lane. No matter how many ganks they throw at him, no matter what they do, he's still doing Soaz things. And then
Yeah. He was
if it got to
famous
team
for
fight
it.
or mid game, he was where he needed to be. So
Yeah. Right, so I'm going to go for some predictions. Bottom or top half of the table, what do you guys reckon?
top half for me. I mean, just 4 of those 5 players just played in the World Finals, so
Yeah.
I can't see him being that low down this year.
Cool. Tom?
Yeah, I agree with the top half, but I don't think they're going to be that good. I think they're going to suffer a little bit, but
Which lane?
yeah, I think
Or which part do you reckon is going to hurt them the most? Losing Caps or
I
losing
think-
SOAS?
losing Caps would be the biggest blow to them. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, so we'll move on to the next team, which is G2. Ooh,
The Snakes.
interesting team. Not my favourite chaps, but nevertheless, we will talk about them.
Alright, where are we starting?
Let's start with Perks going to ADC, because this is the player that G2 have obviously kept, but is now playing a completely different role. And not only is it a completely different role, but it's a role where he now has to not solo lane. Like, he's always been such a strong laner. Now he has to play with a
Lane
support.
Kingdom.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I just think I don't know how he's going to transition. Like, how does that work?
I mean, he's just going to play ADC. I mean, he's been
Yeah, I know
spamming
he's gonna
in the
play
off
ADC,
season.
but-
He's been playing AD carrying solo queue non-stop.
Do you think he's going to take over his skill and dominance to the ADC role, or?
I think he certainly has the mechanical ability, but the issue is more that he's like, when you talk about like heritage EU mid laners, you really think of people like Perks now, because he, like, his LeBlanc performances and his Orianna performances, especially in his more dominant like era,
Akali.
and there's
as well,
you know
as
Carly
well.
at Worlds. Yeah, it's just the way that some players can just 1v9 a game is
Yeah.
not easy to find. Obviously, they have that with a player of Caps now potentially, but Perks was so good at it. It's more interesting that he's not gone to another team, because we lose one incredible mid laner, but you gain a very skilled AD carry. But the level of impact that an AD carry can have on the game is not the same level of impact that a mid laner can have on the game. Like,
Yeah, it's
you-
obviously G2 have put all their eggs in the, well, not all their eggs in the Perks bag. They trust him, obviously. I mean, we saw him play Kai'Sa in the different metas last
Yeah.
year and did extremely well. So I think that kind of shows he has that capability to play the champions, but it's not that that's the problem really. It's the different lane, the different style he's going to have to pull off. And personally, I'm kind of sad a little
Yeah,
bit that
definitely.
we're losing one of our best mid laners for a big unknown in the bot lane, and I just don't see how he can be anywhere near as strong, or even if he is as strong, have the same impact as
No,
an
yeah.
ADC
I
then
personally
as
think,
a mid laner.
yeah. I mean, I personally think he's going to be good. I'm not worried about
Like,
that. I'm
top
worried about when the
5
meta will
ADCs?
switch.
Like top 5 ADCs good, top 3 ADCs
Yeah,
in
possibly.
the league good.
Because the way that he plays is very aggressive. So while the meta stays on Lucian and Ezreal, I see no
They're
problem with
practically
him.
mid laners anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
so-
I see no
Yeah.
problem with him succeeding. But when the meta changes to Ashe or Severe, I'm sure he will try and break it in some way. But if they're the most effective AD carries, I do not see him having any sort of level of impact. If you see people like, I mean, to be fair as well, I don't see people like Caps or Wonder or Yankos really struggling that much just because they've lost a bit of pressure mid lane. I think that he should be fine. And if he wants to continue to play aggressively, we should probably talk about his support, who's probably like the most aggressive support in the league anyway, probably barring
Yeah,
Hilly.
I am a big fan of Mickey X. I think he was extremely good last year, and he's like pretty young. He's got stuff to show. This is a time to see if he can really step up, play with G2. I mean, I think even without seeing Perks play, most people might already say that Perks and Mickey X are better than Kiana and Wood did. It's kind of a big step, but people often thought they were the weak points of G2 last year, and I think probably in total they are going to be a stronger team this year. But then again, they just made World semi-finals, so
Yeah.
so
I
I
don't.
think obviously, yeah, I think Wonder has had a great year, but it was a little bit rocky in Europe for a bit, but internationally it was amazing. So
I mean, maybe we should talk about Wonder, because I know you were very critical of his tank plays So when the meta now
I
inevitably
was,
will
okay.
switch away from carry top laners at some point, what does Wonder do then?
Well, I can't understand how you can be a good carry top laner and not be a good tank player. Like, okay, not be at least
decent one.
a little bit good tank.
Yeah.
Just like the difficulty in being able to play Aatrox or Urgot and put the whole team on your back 1v9, or even a Carly top, which you managed to bring out,
Yeah,
compared to the difficulty of playing Maokai or something in
Yeah.
the top lane. It's just ridiculous. So I think surely by now he's going to have the tanks in his back pocket, and if he goes even in the tank lane and then Caps and Perks can carry, then you're good to go, I guess.
yeah, I suppose so. I'm just slightly worried about his transition to tanks, because I do remember his Scion games were like just night and day from his like Camille games, but his things like his Camille were just really beautiful to watch as well. So this team could be really, really scary, I think, if it works. But at the same time, it could just be a bit of a flop, and then we lose a load of. And just from a spectator point of view, you lose all like these great players on other teams.
Yeah, but how do you guys feel about Yankos? Because I'm not the biggest Yankos fan at the
No,
moment. I think he's extremely hot and cold.
Yeah,
Like-
he's had, again, in terms of narrative, he's always been very popular, and people always rate him very highly.
The guy is
Yeah.
hilarious and great guy for the scene to have. But does he belong in that G2 lineup?
I would say that he certainly does. I do worry about his champion pool sometimes, because like he's
He
got
did
a
have some
very
dreadful
strange way of playing when you watch him. He doesn't seem to have the same sort of like fire that some of the carry junglers have. And it's not like in pro play jungle is necessarily the 1v9 role. Like, it doesn't have to be that good, but he because he obviously memed a lot about the like the Braum play and how good he was at Braum and at facilitating perks.
But he was pretty
But
good at
yeah,
it.
but it works so much better than their second half of the split where he got to play like Nocturne and stuff. So it's a very, very strange sort of thing to see the best jungler, well, one of the best junglers in Europe, as people were heralding him, to struggle that much on champions like Nocturne, who were so strong in the second half of the split.
Yeah, I personally think he could actually end up being a weak point on this team.
I think he
I
belongs,
just-
like you said, but I think I agree with you.
I was surprised that he didn't go. Actually, I was expecting a change in jungler.
Do you
Yes.
reckon that they wanted to keep him, or do you reckon no other teams reached out to him?
If they wanted a new jungler, they could have got a new jungler. They got Caps.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have been on the phone and be like, "We have Caps, Perks, Wonder, and Mickey X. Do you want to be our jungler?" And pretty much any jungler in the league would have been yes. But so I think he's got to play like he has previously in other seasons at a higher level than what he did last year. I feel like, especially at Worlds, he was on off. Especially in the second half of last split, he was on off, and he needs to rise to the level of his team, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree.
I agree.
So we should go for some predictions then. Bottom or top half? Let's go with Tom. Wait, I want to go Tom first this time.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's probably going to be top half.
Yeah?
Just because of where they placed in the Worlds. Pretty much only that. And the perks swap, I'm not too sure about to AD, but if he can play it, it's going to be good because it's perks. But Caps as well, mid lane, I think that's going to be good.
Yeah.
So, I have to
Always
wait
like
and
some
see.
Caps. What about you, Ed?
Yeah, top half. They've just got too much talent. I think
Yeah.
too much talent
Yeah,
on their
full of
roster to not do at least decent
Yeah.
this year.
I think I agree. So definitely top half, because I think the best thing about this roster, maybe not necessarily the bot lane so much, but they've all had up and down seasons in the past. So Wonder and Yankos obviously and Perks had the up and down season where they're doing really well and they had a really big rut, and they got out of the rut and got to Worlds and World semi-finals. The same could be said for Mickey X, although Not quite the same redemption story for him last year, but again on Splice the year before, there definitely was that. So I think they've got a lot of experience in experiencing tough splits. So I reckon the long-term health of the team is probably going to be somewhat better than well, even if they do start to flop. I mean, they clearly have a lot of talent as well. So I'll definitely place them in the top half. So we're going to move on to the next team, which is Misfits. So we have some pretty big changes, and I think this is one of my favourite rosters.
I 100% agree.
In general, it's more not maybe my favourite team because I can't not support Fnatic. It's on principle.
You're not any longer the big Origin fan.
No. It was a tough call for me. I really wanted to support Origin, but I've always flip-flopped on teams, so I'm sticking with Fnatic this time. But anyway, this is generally one of the more interesting rosters, I think, because you've got such a cool-looking roster just on names. What do you guys think?
I think it's amazing. I think these are 5 of maybe the best players in the league. I think so. As we know, Maxlor was great last year, at least for parts of the year. Maybe dwindled towards the end. Febby, I hope we get EU Febby back.
Yeah, dude, that. Yeah.
He started out all right in NA, and then he didn't want to be there. We all know he didn't want to be there. Everyone knew he didn't want to be there.
You drew his Twitter. He literally said like, "I miss EU, I hate NA." I think not in those specific words, but
those words. Hamsamo is a lane bully. Did you see his Draven? Did you see it? And Gorilla. Gorilla we know is a good player, a great player, but it's hard to tell if he'll fit in the team with the others.
I'm gonna say that he will for a number of reasons. His English is definitely one of the best for.
Okay, I don't think I've really seen him speak, so that's the communication thing.
I've not heard him speak. Well, I have heard him speak, but I've not extensively heard him speak. But he always communicates. When all the pros go to Korea, there's always a lot of talk between the two, and he's always one of the ones that the pros speak to in Korea.
Okay.
And he loves to. I know that he loves to practice his English, and he talks to pros. He engages on Twitter with people, even when like World is over and stuff. So he's quite engaged with people, and I think one of the things that I think is really important is when a Korean import comes over is that they are the only Korean import on the team, because what it encourages them to do is get themselves involved with the rest of the team rather than chill out with the other Korean on the team, and like it's just those two, because they've got that safety net of each other. And in game,
so it's not segregated.
Yeah, it's more about the safe. It's in game as well. Your mentality is that I'm playing with this guy because I know what's going on with this guy because I can speak to him properly. But Wadid, for example, was one of the best Korean imports we've ever had in EU, and I would put that down to him being the only Korean on the team because he said it himself as well that.
And he had amazing English.
Yeah, but he didn't at the start. Well, he did. But that's what I mean. So he had some very basic English at the start, but he immersed himself in the G2 culture, and they've got great people on the team, which obviously helps.
The only thing I'm curious about is, I reckon if Mikyx had not gone to G2, like, he would have stayed. I think they'd actually maybe rather have Mikyx than Gorilla. Maybe I'm wrong.
I wouldn't.
But as a team, I feel like Hansam and Mickey have played together for a good time now and kind of coming together. Felt like they were just starting to prove themselves big time. And then Mikyx heads off for G2, so you got to bring in the best you can find.
Yeah, I think that's interesting as well because Gorilla's played with Prey for so many years, but I think that again, in terms of like a mentality aspect, it does do a lot when you feel like you've got a fresh start. Like you're not going with your partner, you've got because the quite like 3 of the 5 team has changed, so over half the team has changed. It's quite good for your mentality to go for a full fresh start, I guess.
And then Jesus has become the head coach as well. Do you think he can do well as coach or?
Yeah, I mean he was coaching anyway. It's just
he
was on the stage with them.
The big guy. Big guy, big cheese.
Moose, I think he's called. Is he called Moose? I don't know. But he seemed like a good guy. He was very smart when he was in the analyst desk and stuff. So, but I mean in general, the team looks obviously very strong. We've already kind of talked about Soaz and what impact he had on Fnatic. So
Febby too.
I suppose
Former
Febby is just the
Fnatic.
question mark. Is it? Are we going to get NA Febby or are we going to get EU Febby? And
I mean,
I've
there's no
seen.
way you can have the same complaints in NA that in EU because most of them were comparing NA to EU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, he should be fine. In my mind, he's going to. I think the meta suits him a bit more as well. He played a lot of Azir in NA. I don't think Azir was
also,
that good.
also on Clutch, it's like when he played well, they won. When he did not play so well, they lost. This one is not 100% the do or die.
Yeah.
Do or die major superstar of the team.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think Hans Zimmer has great potential, and I think he might do extremely well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, you have to
extremely
remember
well
that
this year.
some of this team is the team that took SKT to 5 games when they were on form.
True.
So, and obviously, but you got people like, even when you lose someone like Alfari, you're like, oh, that's really bad. Alfari was really good on this team. Oh, we just got Soaz, one of the
I
most
always
respected
felt
players.
Alfari was like Soaz, just not
Yeah.
as good. So I feel like this is almost a like for like swap.
Yeah.
Even though it's like the same type of player but better kind of thing coming in. So I think you kind of might slot in pretty comfortably. It's not like they swap two top laners that are completely different in every way, almost like Fnatic. With taking out Soaz and bringing in Buipo. So
So I'm going to go for predictions here. Top or bottom half?
for me, top half comfortably.
Tom?
I think top half, but they're more of a middle top.
What's that?
Just because the other ones I've placed at the top already. Sorry.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm going to
Do you
say,
think
like,
Fnatic
these are
and G2 are
general.
stronger?
Sorry?
So I was just asking Tom, do you think Fnatic and G2 will be stronger than Misfits this year? Do you think they have better rosters coming
I
in?
think so, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Because it's quite hard, because it's what I mean when I say it's a competitive year. We've put a lot of teams in top half now.
Already.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and let's see what the next team is. Rogue. See, now this is a team. Now, just without going into it a lot, I would say this looks like a bottom half team. Now we'll go into it later. But obviously a new organisation. We've got Profit, Kikis, Senkux, Hiku, and Wadid. I want to start in the bottom lane with Hiku and Wadid. Now,
Yeah.
mainly because I rated Wadid a lot. However, he's now split up from his partner, and he was very vocal about how well he played with Hjarnan. So, I want to know what you guys think about the fact that we've now lost the Hjarnan Wadid combo.
So I'm surprised that they went with Wadid and then chose to stick with Hiku and not then go with Hjarnan as well. Because Hjarnan isn't on a team this year. He's gone from the pro scene. So I'm surprised that on picking up Wadid, they didn't choose then to go with Hjarnan as well, because especially in Worlds and towards the end, they were extremely good together. So.
Yeah.
And I was a big fan of Wadid. I think he was quite good on G2. And Hiku, I was not a massive fan of. So
I mean, either.
leave that there.
I've never been a fan of Hiku. I have memories of him taking a Tahm Kench ult forwards to Ashe arrow someone. Well, I think it wasn't even. I think it was a Ryze ult forwards to Ashe ult someone, and then got 1v5 by their team instantly. And it was like a very questionable decision. It just generally has never been a very dominant player. Not to say that he's bad, but if you're considering what else we have in the region right now, I don't see a guy like him taking over games, which is really, really what we need to see from teams like this. That being said, the rest of the team, do they have a chance to take over games, you reckon? Senkux and Profit? I in terms of top lane, even in a carry meta, it's very hard for a top laner to truly carry a team, especially if the lanes are losing.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not convinced.
We
No
saw
matter
a
how
bit
good
of
he is.
Worlds when Aatrox Urgot thing was a bit out of hand. But Prophet is I don't think he's the best top laner, and I think Senkux was he was never going to stay on that Misfits side. I think he was always going to leave. I feel like most people, maybe too much, think that he was a weak point in the team.
Yeah.
And I think he was, maybe not to the extent people kind of romanticized about if Febby was there or if Piri had stayed. But
I completely agree with that.
Too much with him.
I completely agree with that because I was a big fan of him on Splice actually. I thought he was a very good player, and especially on the first half of the split where Misfits were doing really well, people would still said that he was looking like a weak link, and then obviously was a bit of a scapegoat for the second half of the split. But I don't think he was ever really bad. I thought he was just sort of taken with the comments and sort of the down surge of the team. He just got caught up in it a bit.
He's almost like a scapegoat because the rest of the team appeared to be doing well, even when they were like not doing super well as a team. So it's like, oh, it must be the one guy who's not doing super well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, but I also don't see him properly carrying a team like this. But I possibly do, because I remember his old days on Splice. He was really, really, really good, and there was a time where Wunder was absolutely awful on Splice, and they had Trashy in the jungle, who was also not very good, and they had Cobby in the bot lane, who is... Oh, Cobby was always very good as well, but not to the extent he is now. Therefore, Kikis and Senkux could be a very strong duo, especially since Kikis is so aggressive. Maybe we see the old aggressive Senkux back.
So I was when Kikis played on Vitality last year, I always was amazed that he just managed to do it every game. Like, it's like okay, so he had a good game last week or yesterday, and he completely destroyed the early game, got his laners ahead, and he went on to win the game. Surely today someone will have sussed him out, or something will have happened, something will have changed, and then he just did the exact same again. Doesn't he? Like, destroyed Voxer in the early game, destroyed Jankos in the early game. It didn't matter who was playing. On an absolute rampage. So I was impressed, but something about me just says, "Oh, he won't be able to do it again." So I don't know.
I think it's part of the roster. There's not necessarily a lane to play around. I think Prophet's good. I think Senkux is good. I think Wadid is good. I'm not convinced on Hiku, and I think Kikis is good. But I don't think any of them are at the same caliber as the big names. And I feel bad about saying that because it's so easy to just say because they're big names they're going to do well, but there is a reason that there's sort of pedigree in players where Kikis could be up there, Senkux could be up there, but they need to have a good split, this split, to show that. And I think it'd be interesting to see that Prophet is on a team that isn't just built around two Koreans for once, because that has been everything he's been. He's been Roccat, who's been built around two Koreans twice, so.
It feels a team that only exists because the other team was getting rid of their worst players to bring in new players. That's what it looks like, and I'm afraid that's what I'm going to see it as until they prove me otherwise.
Indeed, actually, that's a good point. So, bottom or top half, do you reckon, guys?
For me, bottom half. They could prove me wrong, but other teams have bigger names and more experience. But cool logo. I like the logo.
I like the logo.
I'll give them that much.
I think, in terms of branding, they're fine. In terms of the players they've got, they have a good chance. I think I agree with you, Ed, and say they're probably looking on bottom half for me. Just because mainly more the fact what they're going up against rather than the strength of this team. It looks fine. It looks competitive, to be fair. It's just not going to be the premier team in Europe. I don't see it happening. Tom?
I don't think they're going to be that bad, but I do think they're going to be bottom half. Just for the fact that there's so many other teams with like way better players than their team at the minute. But I do like the Prophet and the Senkux. I have no idea who Hiku is though. Where's he come from?
I wouldn't blame you. He's never been.
He's never done anything impressive.
He's from Roccat, okay.
He's one of these players that sits on the back line and does his job, which is fine. If you've got an insane team around you. But he's never really
out there in the front doing
it doesn't necessarily need to be that, though. It needs to be more about, can he just win lane on his own and use his lead to propel his team forward? Which is hard on AD carry, but when you see people like Reckless When you get into 6 items, you know that your game is safe. Or Hans Sama, you know he's got a strong laning phase. He's gonna push the other bot lane to its limits. You've got a bit more room to play with. There's nothing special about Hiku, is my issue with him. Not that I've seen yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so next team is Schalke 04. Now, this is the biggest roster swap I've ever seen. 4 players have changed.
And I'm not sure if they're actually like a lot of swaps. Is there improvement there? That's definitely up for debate.
Let's just go down the list because we'll start in the top lane, and I'm gonna suggest that Odoamne and Vizicachi are the same player. They've just got different names.
I agree.
They play so similarly. It's unreal, and they enter the league at the same time, and no one's ever seen them in the same room together because
except when we play against each other.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Of course.
Well, okay, you go to the toilet, Tom.
Okay.
He's messaging me saying he needs the toilet. But yeah, so Odoamne and Vizicachi, not a massive difference, but I will have to say, and I think that Odoamne is a little bit more reckless than Vizzy. So I think, in considering how similar they are, I think that is a slight downgrade. But when you consider the rest of the team around him,
it's narrow. I think they're always two kind of great laners kind of thing. It's like, well, Vizzy was player of the split or something, wasn't he?
I think two of the last, at least 2 within the last year he's been MVP for the split, yeah.
So I mean he's good, but I don't think either of them are the best in top laner in Europe. But they're clearly LEC worthy top laners. So.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's what I feel.
But I think it's interesting because of the change of team. Like, considering everyone else has changed, I'm a little bit more worried for someone like Odo. If Vizicachi had the whole team change around him and upset, I would be more confident knowing that rather than 4 people changing. It's like it's far more of an unknown than just like for one change, for example. Amazing
it's
for Memento.
Practically a new team, effectively.
Pretty much, yeah. What do you think about Amazing versus Memento?
I think Amazing was better than Memento last year. I mean, that's debatable, but I like everyone's going on about how good Memento was on Rocket last year and how he the captain of the team, bringing them to the playoffs in the spring split. And I'm not sure he actually did everything that he was getting credited for. I think he was a bit overhyped last year, and I'm surprised with how good Amazing did at the start of the split that he's not managed to keep his spot on the team, and that he's not found a team this year either.
Oh, he's a coach for the academy team.
Yeah, but I think he did want to play or something. I think he tweeted about him being disappointed he wasn't on a team. So I'm actually. I mean, if Memento does really well this year, then props to him. But I think Amazing was a good jungler, and I'm surprised that they've favoured Memento over him.
All right. Well, I actually think Memento was very good last year, but I also think in part was thanks to North Scaran as well, which I'm kind of surprised I didn't pick them up together, to be honest. But in general, I think Memento was very good. We'll talk about supports now, I guess, because Ignar obviously is a very, very good player, and in terms of what they could have had with North Scaran potentially, I think Ignar is definitely a suitable replacement. He's not gonna have the same team as he did before to really shine, but I think it's very important to have a strong bot lane, and I think Upset fills that need for an AD carry. And I think that Ignar more than fills that for support as well.
I feel like Ignar and Upset could definitely turn a few heads.
Yeah.
Could definitely. I was just about to say upset some bot lanes. Definitely do well against some of the established bot lanes in Europe this year. So I think that's a decent. Not. It's hard to place. I think that's a good bot lane.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best in the league, but strongish.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. In terms of the mid lane as well, the way that Schalke played last year, I mean, the team, in terms of playstyles of people, like Vizzy for Odo is very similar. Amazing for Memento is not too dissimilar in terms of aggression.
Yeah, you do that.
Vander and Ignar are fairly similar as well. Upset obviously the same, but Nuke Duck was Nuke Duck is obviously, or was obviously, such a big player for making Schalke win last year, and to see that go to a complete
Year of the
rookie
Duck.
is
Yeah.
quite a hard jump to make, I think.
It's like kind of the Caps Nemesis thing, but
You got a
kinda
brand
tone
new
that
whole
down a
team
little
to,
bit.
yeah.
yeah.
There's a whole team to change.
Because
rather
you replace someone who was, quite frankly, astonishing last season in Nuke Duck, who semi carried his team to, was it like a second place finish in
yes,
the
yeah, they
table or
went to
something like
finals,
that.
Yeah.
And Abadage, who's a complete rookie, if he can do the same, then that'd be incredibly impressive. So
I mean, there's always a chance. Again, he's very unknown. He's very high in solo queue, and he's very well rated among pros.
Right.
It's just, it's quite hard to compare him to someone like Nuke Duck, who had this, incredible year that was very well rated. Obviously, the
Yeah.
year of the duck was such a meme, but it really, really was his year to make something happen. So, let's go to predictions now, because we're sort of running out of time. So, top or bottom half, Tom?
They're going to be top.
Top
They're
half.
going to be good.
Ed?
I'm going bottom half, but the top end of bottom half. I reckon they might just shake their way into playoffs, but only just.
Oh my god. I want to put myself as away on Discord. Alistair keeps messaging me. Okay, I'm going to say they are probably top half, but as a team, but I wouldn't put them top half in my power ranking list, if that makes sense.
Okay.
No, it
Like,
doesn't.
they
Pick
are-
one.
Huh?
Are they going to finish top half, or are they going to finish bottom half?
I will say they're a top half team,
No.
but if I were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't think they'd get in my top 5. But they
Okay,
seem
that's
like they're,
bottom half.
if that makes sense. Well, no, because I think
sitting on
the
the
caliber of
fence,
their
Jay.
team is good enough to be a top half team. However, I can't just say when there's so many others that they're going to be in the top half. But
Okay.
if I was giving you a list of 1 to 5, then I would, but they could appear in that 5. I'm saying, depending, because there's so many unknowns as well. I guess
Yeah.
for that reason, I'll probably put them bottom half, but only just like on that border, somewhere like that. So we'll move on to another roster. This one's really interesting. This is SK Gaming,
SK.
which is weird. It's a weird roster. I'm not
It's
gonna
pretty
lie.
much people I've never heard of. Period.
Yeah.
So
Is it?
I'll explain. Self-Made was a jungler in the Spanish league. Crownshot was an AD in the Spanish league. Crownshot came from the same team that Nemesis came from.
Then they all
Werlib,
come from the same team.
sorry.
I thought that Crown Shot, Self-Made, and World all came from the same team, or did they not?
No, Crownshot was on Mad
Okay.
Lions, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, you're correct.
And Self-Made, I can't remember which team he's on, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't on the same one. I'm gonna have a look here. He was on. Oh no, he was. No, he was on Mad as well. Yeah, so Werlib,
Okay.
Self-Made, Nemesis, and Crownshot were on the same team. So I mean,
And
this
they all
guy is
become
definitely.
LEC players.
Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they obviously have some previous synergy is very important. But it's kind of the same scenario as Vitality when they came from the Spanish league. And they've got very strong mid laner and support as well. I think that's
Dreams. The only reason I heard his name because he got high in Korean
Challenger.
solo queue. In tracking the pros.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that Ander did last year, where because he was part of the team and went to Korea to boot camp, but wasn't part of the main team, so wasn't scrimming with them. So he managed to spend all his time climbing the ladder, basically. Obviously, it's coupled with really good skill, But Dreams has been in the LCS before and became a coach since, and I really think that he could be very good support. In in an ideal world, you've got a very, very strong team there. Pyrion, the guy who outclassed Faker for like 2 weeks. Obviously, also the guy basically inted NA for 3 months, but this has a potential to be a good team.
Yeah, I don't think there's much you can say. I think it's
No.
just with this one you kind of just have to see how they do.
Yeah.
It's like they've got obviously 3 players who are like coming into LEC that are almost on the level, if not on the level that they need to be.
Yeah.
And then 2 players who we've kind of seen before and kind of are curious of how well they're gonna do. And then an organization that we saw a while back that are coming back into the league. So it's kind of all stuff that we kind of know a bit about, but we don't know the full story. And I suppose this year's gonna show us what they can do with them players.
Yeah, I agree. So, let's go for a quick prediction. Top or bottom half?
I'm going bottom half with these. They're not bad team, but there's a lot of good teams in this league.
That's the problem. What about you, Tom?
I'm going bottom half just purely because I've only heard of literally like one player in there. So
Again, I think I'll probably have to agree with you, just purely based on the fact that there are too many other good teams. There's not to say that they can't pull a Vitality though from last year, and just they've got these like incredible solo laners now.
100% possible.
Yeah.
100% possible.
So I will put them bottom half. But that's because I'm going for a safe analysis. Who knows?
Not going out there with the Rogue topping the table.
I don't think Rogue will top the table. Anyway, next team is Splyce.
Splyce.
And this is where Norscaron and Vizicachi ended up, who I really thought would stay on Schalke. But what we've got is... It's kind of interesting, isn't it, that Schalke and Splyce basically just swap top laners, and they're basically the same top laner anyway.
Traded, but didn't get anything from it.
It's like swapping 2 Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are pretty much have the same stats in every way.
So, I don't know where we want to... Let's start with Norscaron, because I thought, again, I don't know, you said that Memento was quite overrated on Roccat last year. Norscaron was also a guy that got a lot of praise there. I want to know what you think about Norscaron.
I think Norscaron was great. I loved him. I think he had a nice brawn, and also the personality came across like immediately.
Yeah.
It's like after week 1. No one's heard of Norscaron after week 1 or whenever. Everyone's heard of Norscaron.
Yeah.
I think he pretty much carried the lane. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I feel like he needs to do at least the same again that he did last year, and he has a better chance for Kobe, who's never unimpressive.
Yeah, and this is one of the things. I think he's a very good low resource AD carry, and one of the things that Norscaron liked to do was roam a lot and impact his other good lanes. So hopefully, and since Xerxes is obviously, well, I would say is a very well rated jungler.
I would like to see a bit more out of him this year. I feel like year before last he did well, and everyone was like, "Whoa, Xerxes!" And then last year he had a kind of a bit of a dip, and he needs to get back up to where he was at least to have a decent year. Put his name back in there.
Yeah, I would still say his lows were still better than some junglers' highs in the season though. He was like definitely not awful.
Okay. I feel like he was not amazing, like not anything to.
I wouldn't say it was amazing either. Amazing was on Schalke.
Shut up, James.
But yeah, I see what you mean, and I think I agree to an extent. Maybe I'm overselling him a bit, but I've always thought he's been quite good since he's come over. But then I suppose the big question is on Humanoid, because I've never heard of him, not once.
Cool name. I like the OID at the end.
Humanoid.
Sounds like a robot.
I'm gonna look him up quickly. He played for
Luminar Gaming.
Luminar Gaming, which is a Polish team.
So he's been on a lot of almost teams throughout the years, by the look of it.
Yeah, he's been on Dark Passage, Millennium,
Lions.
Mad Lions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got experience, I guess, but
So you just another.
oh, actually, he's
Rookie
only
mid-laner?
18 years old.
Oh yeah,
Is that
he was born in the year
fourth,
2000.
third?
So, considering he's been on a team since 2016 and he's 18,
That's
I'm going
kinda
to say
crazy.
this guy is a rookie to watch. There you go.
Okay, you say that just from looking at a few stats.
Yeah,
And his
Yeah.
age.
rookie to watch. He's got a nice haircut as well. That helps. No, it's just for serious. He's got Norscarin on his team, and I'll be like, I want to watch that team. And then you get distracted by his haircut.
So do
and
we
you
think
just-
this
you
is
love
a?
him.
Do you think this is an improvement from last year or
Not in the mid lane.
a step down?
I really liked Splice's old roster. I think if they'd have had a bit of better form, particularly on Xerxes, like you were saying, they could have been a very good team.
I feel like this is a bit of a downgrade. I feel like
Yeah.
Odo Vizier's maybe a slight upgrade, but with what they had going, it might be a downgrade. It might be a
Yeah.
null almost. Nisky was playing well towards the end of the year.
Well,
And
he
he's
was
just-
a beast, I think. He was really strong.
Well, I think he was not too great. He's like only winning on Zoe for like a bit at the start, and then kind of grew into it.
Yeah.
And then Kobe is obviously Kobe. He's like he's good enough. He's like does what he needs to do. Kasing Norscarin's an interesting swap. Kind of swap the guy who's had a lot of experience and a great personality to the guy who's had less experience but still has a great personality.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I think it might be a bit of a decrease, but
I still think the
depends
roster's
what human
competitive, which is important.
Yeah, I think any decrease is small. It's a
Yeah.
shame that we've lost another mid to NA, but we got one back.
Yeah.
So it's
Stop
alright.
stealing our mids, NA. This is not the NA
I do
review.
agree.
Anyway, final team then for today.
No, we haven't done position of the table yet, James.
No, I know. We'll do that afterwards.
No,
Got-
no, Splice.
Oh, good point. We'll go back. Top or bottom half?
That's true.
Tom.
I'll go.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
Ed
go
will
top
go.
half.
Tom will go.
Tom's gone.
Top half.
Yeah,
Top
top
half.
half, just because the team just looks quite good. I don't think it's super good, but I think it can go for it.
Better than Schalke, which you put bottom half.
No, Tom put Shaka top half, didn't he?
Oh, maybe you did. I can't remember actually.
Neither
Sorry.
can I.
Ed.
I'm gonna put him bottom half, but this is a tough one because they like finished bottom half last year, despite the fact that they definitely had a roster which they could have done super well with.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna put them bottom half.
I'm going to break the mold and go top half. I think Humanoid and his great haircut are going to carry them to to victory.
He
I
does have a
reckon.
very good haircut.
Okay,
does have a
fair
nice
enough,
haircut.
fair enough.
All right. Next and final team, which is
final
Vitality.
team.
The only thing to talk about is Mowgli.
Yes. Well, it's not the only thing to talk about, but
It's the
most
main
thing.
thing.
Mowgli's haircut might just carry them as well.
I think it's an interesting one because I don't think if they hadn't have got to Worlds, so they'd just missed out. There was no way they would have got rid of Kikis because he carried them big time in the split in Europe. But as soon as they got to Worlds, Kikis just seemed to lose it a bit, and it was like Jizuke and the rest of the team pretty much kind of like did big things at Worlds. I was very impressed with Jizuke.
I was very
think-
surprised by Attila in particular because he's definitely not somebody I've ever rated. But
Yeah,
he
I-
did have some very good games at
He-
Worlds, and I was very surprised. Why is he not showing that in Europe?
Obviously,
Yeah.
Europe's harder. Just
Yeah,
have to-
Europe's obviously harder than what was it, Genji and RNG. Just beat Uzi forehead, you know, it's easy.
So interesting change with Mowgli. It's another one where there could be communication issues. Obviously, he's an import, which is kind of big in the jungle.
Yeah,
It's probably the most important one. Maybe support to have
yeah.
good communication.
The only
So-
thing that I would say about it is, the reason they picked him up was because he could mesh so well with the team when they went to boot camp with the Freaka Freaks over Worlds, and because he got on so well with the team, they basically picked him up on that basis. So I imagine,
That's good to know.
yeah, I imagine that he's probably going to do well with the team. He's very aggressive jungler and very mechanically skilled as well. So in a team that likes to play aggressive and likes to use their mechanics, I reckon he's a great fit. I think Kikis was probably a better fit still. And obviously he's got that communication thing. Maybe he's just a little bit too headstrong for the team. Maybe they've...
I
Maybe we've got
honestly
some
feel
better shot
like
callers.
Kikis just didn't do well enough at Worlds, and that's the only reason he's not back. Because, like I said, he was phenomenal in the split. I also think this year could turn into a big one for Jizuke.
Yeah.
I think if he managed to push on from his first year and then also his world performance, he could really become potentially the best mid laner in Europe, which is kind of weird to say, but
Yeah.
I really feel like he could kind of be big this year.
It's because
I
he
feel
was so
like
consistent as well, I think.
He was, and then consistently aggressively good, which
Yeah.
is three things that
That's
don't
hard.
always go well together. Yeah,
That's
it's
hard
not,
to do.
Not too well. It's a lot easier to be consistently defensively good
Yeah.
than aggressively. So if Jizuke can pull off a big year, then who knows what could happen with this team.
Cool.
And I was impressed with them last year as well.
Yeah, I really didn't like them last year at all. Until we got our EU Euphoria, where we were looking like we'd get all three groups into the semi-finals at some point. Or all three would get out of groups at least. And I had some hope for them.
And Yamato Cannon, everyone's got to love him.
I love Yamato Cannon, and I
Yamato
love
Cannon
Jizuke.
Is a
but
beast.
I don't like Attila because he's very cocky, and I don't like cocky players. But like,
That's
there's a
cool.
difference between being cocky and being really good, and being cocky and being pretty good, you know?
Average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't like the way he dealt with things, just as a personal thing. I think he's a fine player, but I was actually impressed, especially at Worlds when he managed to step up quite a lot. And I guess when you get a sort of confidence when you're that cocky, that's probably based on performance as well. You're going to get a good performance the next year. I think for the whole team as well. If you get there's some kind of change happening, which is good for their mentality because it's not the same year. We've got something different. And we're going to make it work this time, maybe they're thinking. They've got the foundations of a great team with one distinct change. Maybe that works for them. So yeah.
Well, how do you feel about Jackdaw?
I think it's fine. I think he's
But
really
fine
important
is-
with their team because he's not afraid
Okay.
to go in 1v5 and die.
Which
And
is
that's what they
I
need. But they work off of that. They're so strange at how they play.
It's
No
true.
other team plays like them.
I love watching them, especially Worlds. I love watching them.
But I did enjoy them at Worlds. The regular split was very confusing, and every game made me sad. But the big sort of the meta kind of fell apart at Worlds in a good way, and that kind of benefits them. So hopefully it continues that way. So great games to watch. Anyway, I think we should probably move on to top and bottom.
We
'cause
also
we need to-
haven't done Origin.
Are they not on my list? Oh dear.
They are
What was
actually
it, Origin?
another one of these teams in the LEC this year. I don't know if you knew.
Yeah. I love Origin. Oh yeah, I missed Origin. Okay,
And
so we'll
also,
do top or bottom.
For Vitality,
hmm
I'm going top. I love this team.
Cool. Tom?
I'm going top, but like more of a middle top.
Yeah. I think I agree with you there. It's they definitely look like a good team. Mowgli is very hit or miss, I think, but I reckon good enough to see them through at least. Now, let me see. Do I actually have Origin saved? Doesn't look like it.
I can just go through them. So it's top Alfari, Jungle Cold, obviously formerly Trashy, mid Nuke Dirk, AD Sheriff, and support Mithy.
So in general, if we look at
So
our-
also Sheriff has become Patrick. So
yeah, there we go. I've got it now. So what do we think about the jungle in particular? Because he's definitely somebody who has received a lot of flack and been on a lot of failing teams before. Do we think
Yeah.
that's because of him, or do we think that's just purely unlucky?
I think it could be him. I think he could be a real weak point for this team. I look at Alfari, I think solid. I look at Nuke Duck, I think great year. Look at Sheriff, I thought was kind of a strong point on a weakish team. And Mithy is Mithy. And even though he had a bad year on TSM, let's see It's kind of really similar to Forbidden. Kind of had a bad year on an American team, and we got him back, and we want to see how
Got
he
him
can do
back.
back in Europe.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that when I look at these 5 players, I think Cold is the one that doesn't stand out for me
Yeah.
as the top player in their position.
I have to agree. But I think in terms of his previous performance, he has been fairly unlucky. Like his run on Splice was pretty good, but again, he was the weak link. When he transitioned to
Yeah.
UOL, there was a he made. I remember he mentioned when he changed his name, he wanted to leave Trashy behind and become a more aggressive player. I remember him on a lot of Rengar games or just randomly aggressive champions. It just didn't work out for him. But I reckon in a roster where he's not having to be the carry, he might be able to go back to that old facilitative role and actually allow people like Nuke, Duck, and Sheriff to be really good. Because Sheriff, I think, when he was working on H2K, particularly in the spring split, when AD carries were more of the meta, he was very, very, very good. He's one of these like prodigy AD carries, and
Yeah.
Mithy's already had good experience with a prodigy AD carry up and coming. So I really hope that he can do the same again. And
Mithy without Sven.
yeah, well,
Big thing
Sheriff
with
could be
Sven.
the new Sven. He's already changed his
But
name.
Is it gonna mean he's already done the Sven? Changed his name from something to his first name. Is it gonna affect Mithy big time though? Not being with Sven for the first time.
Not for the first time, because he's had
Okay, for
experience
the first
before.
time since Sven.
Lemon Dogs is the old days.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because he's a very individual player anyway, Mithy. He just had somebody good to back him up, I think. And he's
Yeah,
got a very
makes
strong
sense.
mid and top. Solo lanes are, as of now, the important part of this game. So I think
Can Nuke Duck do the same again?
I reckon so. Even in this competitive field. He did it against Caps in the finals. He did it against Caps in
True.
the split. Did it against Perks in the split. He showed him up a bit. But obviously not all
Yeah.
the time. It's kind of hit and miss again, but more to the extent of what he can actually do. I think he will be definitely a good player. It's just to what extent is he going to be this incredible player? Is it the year of the Duck 2? This time it's the year of the Nuke. That sounds more impactful.
Year of the Nuke.
The year of
No.
the Nuke. Sounds like the end of the world.
Cold.
It does.
But Cold does sound, again, like you said, probably the weakest point of this team. So, I think we already know about the rest of the people in this team. Do you guys want to say about bottom or top half? We'll start with Tom.
I'll probably get top half.
So you've got about 80% of the team in the top half.
But I don't know where to put them. If I want to go bottom half, I feel bad because I'm putting them in the bottom half. But
I think Origin might slip into the top half as well this year.
I think it's possible. I want to say they're like almost top, but something tells me they're going to be bottom half. So I'm going to say
Okay.
bottom half. I think they're going to be bottom half. I think, despite how much faith I have in Mithy and Alfari, they've come off fairly bad splits, and I know that, especially for Mithy, that is going to affect him. As soon as you start losing on what you think is your new super team, potentially, with this big like name behind them, they've got a very big Twitter brand going, like rewriting history and stuff, and I'm not particularly convinced that it's going to be the right kind of history they want to rewrite. I think there could be some emotional like plays made basically that aren't going to be the right ones.
Just a question: do you think that Mithy was particularly bad on TSM?
I think so, because as soon as he started losing, you could see that his plays were becoming a lot more desperate. And you're like, I'm a good player here. I don't know why we're losing. I'm going to make this massive play that nobody's on board with, and then he dies 1v5 or something. Like, it was a bit. And he's kind of always been that way, and it comes across in interviews and it comes across in his gameplay. Then again, he could find his form again with a brand new team. It's very swingy, but I reckon overall I'm going to put them in the bottom half. Okay, so that's the last team we need to go through. We need to do one last thing, which is one team and one player that you think is overrated, and one team and one player that you think is underrated. And then obviously we're going to track this through future episodes of the podcast, and we're
So
going
when
to
your
catch up.
overrated team does
see how
really,
long-
really well,
Yeah.
you look like a twit.
So I'm going to start with Ed. Hit me with an overrated team.
Overrated team. Yeah, I've gone. Slightly maybe changed the rules of the game. I went with definitely a team which is overhyped. I've gone with Origin. I think loads of people are saying, "Oh, Deficio is the greatest analyst that's ever existed," or whatever. They got 5 of the best players in the world. They're going to be top of the league. I don't think Origin are going to do as well as people think. I think they might finish top half, maybe just. They'll probably make playoffs. But I don't think they'll be challenging for that top spot that a lot of people seem to think they will be.
Yeah, I have to agree on Deficio. Like, as much as I love him, he's like the greatest thing that's ever happened to League of Legends. But he's not playing the game, so he doesn't really do a lot. Tom, you hit me with an overrated team.
Overrated team. I
Yep.
think I will go for G2.
I like it.
Solid. They were my almost. I almost said that.
Is it overrated player as well?
I'll get onto that later. So I'm going to do my prediction of an overrated team. I'm going to go with Misfits. And I'm going to say mainly because of Forbidden. Again, the same thing as
Okay.
Mythy coming off a bad split. I'm a bit worried that he's going to flop, and he's going to flop hard, which is in turn going to cause people like Soaz to flop. I mean, it's the first time Soaz is going to be playing with somebody as aggressive as Maxlor, I think. And the bot lane could have issues. I just think, in general, Misfits looks like really cool on paper, but there's a very real chance that the bosses are going to be quite emotive for them if they do come across them. So Ed, I'm going to go to you for an overrated player.
Overrated player. I think I have to go with Perks ADC. I don't know. I just can't get the feeling that he's just going to be a worse than bang average player on ADC. Like if it were just player like still mid, there's no way I'd pick him. I think he's amazing. I think he's one of the best players at Worlds. He was probably the best mid laner at Worlds from Europe. I think he did better than Caps at Worlds. I'll put that out there. But ADC, I think it's overhyped, overrated. He can't just switch and be a top 3 ADC in the league. There's no way.
Fair enough. I like it. Tom, you got an overrated player?
I was going to go Perks, but it's been taken, so I'll
Yeah.
swap mine. I think I'm going to go with Caps.
Okay.
Just because he's came from Fnatic, and as you said, he was like babysitted on
Yeah.
Fnatic. So I just want to see how he's going to perform on G2 Esports to see how.
G2 getting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Tom hates
That's
G2. Apparently I've got overrated team, G2, overrated player, Caps. Damn it, Caps. I think my overrated player is probably going to have to be Mythy.
Okay.
Because
that's
I've explained
interesting,
this
Mark.
earlier,
Yeah.
and I'm a bit worried that his ego is going to push ahead of him. Obviously, he's very well rated. I think he will probably be okay, but I need to make some predictions. So.
I did almost say Nemesis because I thought people are suddenly thinking he's a good player
Yeah.
because he's on Fnatic. I was like, that doesn't turn you into a good player. That just means you've got big boots to fill. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm going to go
Fine.
for Ed and an underrated team now.
Anointed team. I'm going with Vitality here. I think that they have the potential to do extremely well this year. I think they might do extremely well this year, and I think people are sleeping on them a bit because they did well at the end of last year. Did pretty well at Worlds. If they can just tone that in, and at Worlds they played extremely well with a Kikis who wasn't really working, and now they got the same team but with a potentially better jungler. I think they could do well this year.
Nice. I like it. What about you, Tom?
I think Excel Esports.
Excel Esports. Okay.
I think I put them in the bottom half of the teams,
That would
but I
make
do
them
think they have
underrated.
potential just to randomly break through and show that they're not just average team. I think they could have potential to become a good team.
I think I'm going to go for... I can't remember the name of the team now. Need to search through. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, SK. That was it. I think I like the Spanish league. The Spanish league creates good, aggressive players, and
Yeah, it
combine
has.
that with some solid players. I really think they could surprise people. So finally, we go to Ed for an underrated player.
So this one I found a bit hard, but I'm gonna have to go with it. I'm gonna go with Soaz. I think last
Okay.
year.
The
Right.
awful
Hear
player
me out,
known as
hear me out.
Soaz.
Hear me out. So everyone was like, Soaz is great, but he's getting replaced with Wipo, who's a bit better. I'm like, no, I'm not having any of that. I think Soaz is the best top laner in this league. I think he might be the best top laner by a significant margin in this league. So I'm gonna go, even though everyone knows he's great, I'm gonna go with underrated.
Fair
Soaz.
enough. I'll give you that. Tom, you got an underrated player?
I kind of want to go with Kasing on XL
Yeah,
okay.
again with XL because I think Kasing has got. I think he's got what it takes to make that team actually a really good team.
Yeah.
He can be the glue for the team to just stick together. So I'm gonna go with Kasing.
Right. So my last one is I'm going to go with Abadaga from Schalke.
Because of the light hair.
No, that's what's his name? The other
Oh,
guy.
that's humanoid.
Yeah, humanoid. Yeah, no, I'm going with
What the
Abadaga. There's something about him. I've watched a few of the Schalke videos, and I get a good impression from him. And I've heard that he's obviously very well rated among the pros. In a team that's got a lot of experience and could have a lot of ups and downs, maybe I just feel like it could be someone like him that really brings the team together. And when these old dogs like get a new rookie that starts powering forwards, maybe they actually get some real momentum going with him. So I just feel like there's a good chance for this guy to hopefully break through, especially because he's like a pure rookie. Like he's never played any league. Well, not that he's not played any leagues before, but he's again very very new to the scene. So that's always nice to see. So that will be it for our predictions. Apart from that, they managed to
I've
cover
got a table
every-
prediction. Do we not want to hear that?
Well, we could do. We've not got a lot of time. We've already gone kind of
Okay.
20 minutes over what I was intending us to go for.
It's got a bit of boldness in it. I'll just say the
Okay,
top...
you go then.
Okay, I'll say the top three. I believe in this order. We'll have third in Fnatic.
Yep.
Yeah, that right. Third. Second, I'm putting Vitality there.
Yep.
And then first, Misfits. That's what I'm saying.
Vitality Misfits.
Do you
Okay.
two know where to be seen?
Tom, have you
Oh,
got
yeah,
a
I've
table
got
then?
them before.
We'll do tables as well.
Okay. I think Fnatic first.
Yep.
XL second. XL second, yes. And then I think Misfits third. If we're doing just top three.
Yep, we'll just do top three for now, and I'll do mine. Well, I have to completely make this up because I haven't prepared it. I'll
sorry.
say that I want to put Fnatic first, just because I'm biased. I want to say that G2 are going to come second, and I think I want to say I can't really say. I'll say Vitality, I think. Which is interesting because they are the same three that went to Worlds this year, so maybe that's
Yeah,
probably
they
what.
are.
So I don't really know. We'll see. There's
You
some
will.
interesting predictions. So from next week on the podcast, we will watch the games and we're going to go over things like game of the week and whether it held up. We're going to track these predictions on overrated stuff. I'll bring up a graphic just here, and we're going to check, just briefly say, has this lived up after the first week? And then I think we're going to save this for next week, after the first week of play at least, so we can see some of the new people play as well. We're going to do our MVP predictions, I think, next week instead. Because I think, especially for, I was looking when we went over the rosters, people like Excel, I really have no idea how half of them are going to play. Same for some of the
Wait,
new
you're going
ones.
to predict someone from Excel to be MVP?
No, but maybe
It's Thomas.
you get an inkling from their play that they might be a great
Tom's
team.
Excel fanboy now.
Cadril Jungle, I'm guarantee is not going to be MVP. There you go. That's my prediction. £100 on the line. No, don't.
£100,
No,
okay.
no money on the line.
Okay.
I'll take that back.
Is
Anyway,
it like your
I
Splice is
suppose-
going to win Worlds prediction.
Right, Splice are going to win Worlds. I'll make that prediction
Just,
right
just
now.
not that year that you predicted it.
No, obviously, maybe next year when they get Caps and Faker playing ADC together, because that's clearly what we need to
The double mid strat.
do. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so apart from that, I don't think there's anything else to go over for this week. So that will do us for now, and hopefully we'll see people next week for some more substantive stuff, so we can actually talk about some games rather than just broad
Substantive.
concepts. Oh yeah, substantive stuff like, you know, League of Legends and
Substantial.
where we should freeze waves and things, and
Is
how
that
little
right?
we care about it. So thank you very much, and cheers Ed and Tom for joining me. It's been good fun, and we'll see you next week hopefully.